Yo, yo. Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. As always, Soapman's in the house. Here to clean your mouth out with another episode. Now, we got a not a long episode, but we got a lot to cover this episode, so I'm gonna just jump right off into it. But before we get started, I want to talk about my last episode briefly. In my last episode, Joshua the harlot, I called Rahab a hoe. Now, I'm sure that offended a lot of you good sanctified church folks, but let me explain. See, I grew up in the church, and church folks, they tend to look at things and, look at life as black and white. You know, even my pops will tell you, it's only blessings and curses. Now, I seem to think there's a lot more gray area, okay, than it is black and white. What I'm trying to say is, church folks, y'all just gonna have to come to grips with the fact that Rahab was a hoe. Now, the Bible calls her a harlot. I called her a hoe, and if you offended by that, you ought to hear how these little kids talking. Some of them y'all kids calling hoes thoughts and Tatianas and runners and, all kind of stuff that I won't even say, But that's just a couple of them, just throwing them out there for you. But y'all just gonna have to come to grips with it's a lot more gray area than it is black and white. You know what I'm saying? It's just not as simple as you blessed or you cursed and, you know what I mean? There's no in between. Rahab was a harlot and she was favored. It seemed that God blessed her. She was the only survivor of the city. Spoiler alert, the name of the show is The Fall of Jericho, and the city of Jericho falls. So, if I offended anybody in my last episode by calling Rahab a hoe over and over, I apologize. But you still gonna have to swallow the fact that it was hoes back then, like it is now. And it's prostitutes and drug addicts, and those are real people in this real world. And guess what? God notices those people too, and sometimes he blesses those people. And you know what? A lot of them people gonna go to heaven too. And a lot of your goody two-shoe, goody church sanctified folks going somewhere else. My pops once told me, it's a lot of good people going to hell. And that always stuck with me. It resonated with me because it sounded about right, straight up. And he also said hell has enlarged itself to accommodate its host. Think about that also. I'm not trying to say, I'm somebody that's a goody two-shoes and got a halo over my head. If you've seen my episode, you already know that ain't true. What I'm trying to emphasize and the point I'm trying to get across is a lot of unsavory people God blesses, and a lot of unsavory people are also going to heaven. And with that, we must move on. Now, speaking of church folk, a lot of the church folks, or even most of the church folks, if not all church folks, know the story of Jericho and the fall of Jericho. Spoiler alert, Jericho falls, okay? Jericho is this city in the ancient world, and it is known for its heavily fortified walls. And Joshua brings the walls of the city down, and he makes it look easy. So let's get into it and see if we can find out exactly how Joshua pulls off this Moses-like feat. Ladies and gentlemen, Son of a Preacher Man presents to you yada yada yada, you already know. So we start off with Joshua chapter 3 verses 1 through 4, and it reads, and Joshua rose early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim and came to Jordan, and he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. And it came to pass after 3 days that the officers went through the host, and they commanded the people, saying, when ye seek the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priest, the Levites bearing it, then ye shall remove from your place, and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Come not near unto it, that ye may know the way which ye must go, for ye have not passed this way heretofore. Joshua chapter 3, verses 7 through 8. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day will I begin to magnify thee in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. And thou shalt command the priests that bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when ye are come to the brink of the water of Jordan, ye shall stand still in Jordan. And I'm going to explain all three of these slides that I'm reading right here in just a second. Joshua chapter 3, verses 14 through 17 read, and it came to pass when the people removed from their tents to pass over Jordan, and the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for the Jordan overflowed all his banks all the time of the harvest, that the waters which came down from above stood and rose upon an heap very far from the city, Adam, that is beside Zerean. And those that came down toward the sea of the plain, even the salt sea, failed and were cut off. And the people passed over right against Jericho. And the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of Jordan. And all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over Jordan. Now, so let me explain what happens here. The Israelites and their leader Joshua are on the east side of the Jordan River. Jericho is on the west side. The city of Jericho is on the west side of the Jordan River. And so Joshua must lead his congregation across the Jordan River. Now, the people on the west side of the Jordan River, they're shaking in their boots because of all that has transpired up until now. But at least they are separated from the congregation by the river. So Joshua says, God says to Joshua, he gives him instructions on how to cross the Jordan River. He says, this day will I magnify you before the congregation. They're going to know I'm with you just like I was with Moses. You're about to do something similar to what Moses used to do. You're about to remind them of Moses. And so Joshua tells the priests that bear the Ark of the Covenant to go down to the river Jordan, and he commands that the people follow them. He says, don't get too close. And he says that when the priest's feet touch the water, that the waters will dry up. Now what happens is something stops up the water further up ahead from their position. But sure enough, when the priest's feet touch the water, it begins to dry up, so that the Israelite congregation passes over the river Jordan on dry ground. Joshua gathers the army, and on the third day basically tells everyone, follow the Ark of the Covenant. Like Moses, Joshua uses spies to scout out the place he plans to invade. Like Moses, Joshua is a prophet who God speaks to in visions and dreams. And like Moses, Joshua is going to seem to control the very environment around him. Like Moses crossed the Red Sea on dry ground, Joshua is going to cross the Jordan River on dry ground. It's like a microcosm of what Moses did. Joshua is literally a mini Moses. He is a carbon copy. I don't want to take up too much time emphasizing that, but I feel like it's important to emphasize that. This Joshua is the genius of Moses on display. I'm sorry. No, I said that right. Yeah, Joshua is the genius of Moses on display. Moses created a carbon copy of himself. Moses is a genius. So you know he knows what he's doing with Joshua. He knows what's going to happen long after he's gone. He's putting the pieces in place. This man is playing chess. He's playing space chess on a whole nother level. He has installed this mini-me, this mini carbon copy of himself to ensure that his legacy, that his instructions, that his commandments, that his laws, that his rules endure. So remember when Moses allegedly divided the Red Sea, or more accurately, the Sea of Reeds. How can anyone forget? And just like Moses, Joshua seems to divide the Jordan River, and he does it in the sight of everyone, the army, the congregation, the priests. Joshua does this so that everyone can see, so that everyone will not have a doubt that he is the real deal, that he is the rightful person to take after Moses, to step into Moses' place, into Moses' position, to fill his shoes. He is showing them what I'm telling you, that he is like Moses. He's like, this is as good as you get. This is as close as you gonna get. And he divides the Jordan River, which is not as big as a sea, but I mean, hey. So it's important to note that this is not the only time the Jordan River has behaved in this way. This is not the only time the Jordan River has dried up. But like Moses, Joshua seems to have been able to predict and time these events with such accuracy to where it almost seems that he is commanding the river's water itself. This act by Joshua shows that, like Moses, God has Joshua's back. The people cross on dry land, just like with Moses, just like they did at the Red Sea. Though the Jordan River is nowhere near as vast as the Sea of Aqaba, it is still a very significant body of water. And that water stayed dried up for all these people to cross. This would have also put the fear of God in the people living on the west side of the Jordan River, in the land of Canaan. The threat of the Israelite horde was bad enough when they were separated by the Jordan River, the river providing a buffer between the land and the threat. But now the Hebrew horde, they've crossed the river into the land of Canaan. And not just the army, the men, the women, the children, the cattle, all the rest of the congregation except the tribe of Manasseh, Reuben, and I believe Gad, who stayed on the east side of the river. If you saw episodes back, remember they made that deal with Moses. Hey, we'll spearhead this, you know what I'm saying, campaign into the land of Canaan if we can stay and have this land on the east side of the Jordan River, the land that they took out of the hands of the two giant Amorite kings. Okay, not to ramble. Let's plow ahead. So not just the army crosses, but the entire congregation crosses. These people are, listen to this. These people are looking for a place to live, the nerve. They came with the army so that they could populate the new lands as the army conquered it. So like as the army came and beat you and your family out of their home, they was rolling with the army. They wanted to be ready to pounce on the opportunity and feel, they was just gonna throw your carcass out of your home and just occupy that mug and just begin to live and start cooking and making breakfast. You know what I'm saying? Like, dog, these people ain't no joke, straight up. I imagine being a citizen of Jericho, you would look from out your window or off the top of the wall to see this innumerable amount of people amassing outside the city wall. And it's no secret as to why they're there. They got their belongings, their furniture, they're with the army. They're just like, yeah, just biding my time. You guys will be out of there soon. So here's the map. And if you can see my pointer right here. So they came out of Shittim, is what the Bible says. Here's the Jordan River. They crossed the Jordan River. And as you can see, the first thing they come to is the city of Jericho. Just across the Jordan River is the city of Jericho. And so moving on, we move on to Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 through 15. And it reads, "And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as a captain of the host of the Lord I am now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so." Let's talk about it. So it says Joshua crosses the Jordan River and a strange thing happens. Joshua encounters a man. He goes over and talks to the man. So he doesn't know, that the man is an angel, because the man seems to be an angel. He says he's a captain over the Lord's host. So Joshua questions this man who, by the narrative, by all accounts, seems to be a normal soul, a normal human living soldier. He questions the man. The man says, he reveals his identity. He says, I'm the captain of the Lord's host. When he replies in that manner, Joshua recognizes that this must be an angel. Okay, so he falls on his face and he worships. The angel, the captain of the Lord's host, tells Joshua to take his shoes off. He's standing on holy ground. Where have we heard this before? Where have we heard before where God or one of God's angels tells someone to take their shoes? It's in the story of Moses, just like Moses. Joshua is even having visions and dreams similar to Moses. Why am I saying this is a vision or a dream? Because we already established episodes ago that when God visits someone or when he talks to someone, it is through a vision or a dream. So we know that's what's going on with Joshua. Just like Moses, God speaks to Joshua through visions and dreams. Now, unlike Moses, God does not speak to Joshua face to face, but Joshua is a prophet and God speaks with him through visions and dreams like we see here. So we move on to Joshua chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, and it reads, Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. Now I want to pause here for a minute because I want to point something out to you. Joshua sees a chink in the armor. Jericho is a city, it is a walled city, which is something very valuable back in ancient times. Not all towns and cities were walled. So if you was a walled city, you pretty much had your stuff together. Jericho was renowned for its impregnable wall. Am I pronouncing that right? Impregnable, whatever. It was known for its high walls. So At this point, Joshua is talking to you. And he's saying that God spoke to him. But what is he saying actually when he says God spoke to me? Is he saying he heard a voice come out of the clouds or a voice in his head? No. What he's saying is, I just noticed something. He's giving God the credit. He's giving God the credit. He's saying, God is showing me what I see. And what he sees is a chink in the armor. What he sees is a way to topple the wall. That is what he's saying right here in the first two sentences of this verse. Let me read it again. Listen to what he says. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. Listen closely. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given unto thine hand Jericho and the king thereof and the mighty men of valor. What Joshua is saying is, I see a way to topple that wall. And I'm giving God the credit. He's not writing this in real time. He's writing this after the fact. He's saying, and he's saying it in a funny way because this was written so long ago. He's not saying a voice actually came out and spoke to him. What he's saying is, I saw something, it gave me an idea, and I'm giving God the credit. I'm saying he said it to me. He showed it to me. It was him who gave me the idea. It was him who gave me the know-how and the wisdom and the intuition and the foresight. He's giving God the credit. I can't explain it any better than that. So he says, and ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war. What he is saying is, if I compass the city, but he's wording it in a way suggesting that it's God speaking to him. But I'm telling you, Joshua sees something, and he's saying to himself, I'm going to read what he's thinking to himself when he sees what he sees. He says, and ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days, and 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day shall ye compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. That's the recipe. That's what Joshua tells himself. He says, if I march everybody with, including the Ark of the Covenant, if I march the whole army, including the reserves, including the Ark of the Covenant, including the priests, with 7 priests blaring the holy ram's horns, if I do that every day for 6 days, and on the 7th day, compass the city 7 times, and on the 7th circle, have everybody scream and shout as the priests blow the holy horns, the wall will come crumbling down. Now I know that was a lot, but you can reread it, rewind it, and re-listen to it if you didn't get all that. But that's the recipe. That is the recipe that Joshua comes up with. That's what he peeps. He peeps game. Can't tell you exactly what he saw because I wasn't there. But I understand the jargon. I understand the slang, if you will. Joshua saw something. Anyway, Joshua chapter 6 verses 8 through 14 reads, And it came to pass when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the rearward came after the ark. the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you shout, then shall ye shout. So the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp, and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually, and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, but the rearward came after the ark of the Lord, the priests going on and blowing the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once, and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. Joshua chapter 6 verses 15 through 21 reads, And it came to pass on the 7th day, that they rose early about the dawning of the day, and compassed the city 7 times. Here's the recipe. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew the trumpets. Now they've been blowing the trumpets every day for 6 days. Here's the 7th day. They're circling the city 7 times. These priests are blaring these trumpets, these ram's horns, the whole time. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord hath given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it, and all that are therein, to the Lord. Only Rahab, listen, he singles out Rahab in this little monologue, in this little motivational speech he gives, even as he's giving commandments. They are about keeping their word. He says, only Rahab the harlot shall live. She and the Bible calls her a harlot. For all y'all that had a problem, we calling her a hoe. The Bible calls her a hoe, okay? Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye, in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed things, lest ye make yourselves accursed when ye take of the accursed things, and make the camp of Israel accursed, and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are considered unto the Lord, are consecrated unto the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with the great shout, the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him. And they took the city, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. Man, oh man. So we see the formula. Joshua tells us exactly how he brings down the wall, but yet we still ask, how did he do it? How does that bring down these infamously strong, fortified walls? You want the facts. You want Soapman to give you the facts. You like, hey, Soapman, this is your show. This is your thing. Tell us how he did it without delay. So let's look at the components of the recipe. An army marching outside the city every day for 6 days. 7 priests blaring ram's horns. You might as well say trumpets. And let me tell you, I have one of these old like Viking horns. That horn that I have, I don't know if these horns was anything like that, but I'm telling you, these old ancient horns are loud, dude, like straight up, dude. You can hear it for miles. And now, if they was anything like that, man, the sound, it reverberates, okay? It is significant. I'm not just trying to like embellish or decorate. It's no need to. The truth is sufficient. So you got these 7 priests walking around the city blaring these horns. In front of them is the entire army. Behind the priests is the Ark of the Covenant. Now, we don't know what role the Ark of the Covenant plays in this recipe, because we don't know what the Ark of the Covenant exactly is, okay? There goes the genius of Moses, okay? That's just how it goes. Now, behind the priest bearing the Ark of the Covenant is the rearward guard, okay? The reserves, basically, okay? So we got the pieces of the recipe, and they march around this city blaring these horns for 6 straight days. And on the seventh day, they march around the city 7 times, blaring these horns. Priests blaring horns as they march with the armed men. And let's not forget the Ark of the Covenant. We don't know exactly what it was, making it impossible to determine what effect, if any, it had on the walls of Jericho failing, because we know they failed. The army and the priests are instructed to march around the city once a day for 6 days. The priests are to follow with the Ark of the Covenant, the other priests blaring their holy sheep horns. My God, on the 7th day, the army and the priests march around the city just like before, only they do it 7 times. Once they've completed the 7th circle, everyone shouts. The priests blare with the horns. It's a great shout, and the walls come crumbling down like clockwork, as predicted, as Joshua saw it. So, how did it happen? In short, I don't really know. But here's what I think happened. What I think happened is Joshua created a mini earthquake. Yeah. I don't know if, like in this slide, you see the people on top of the wall. Maybe they were. I'd imagine if it was an army or a horde outside of my wall, I would go up on my wall to take a look. Maybe that had something to do with it. He did not include that in his narrative. Some people like to say, oh, well, it was an earthquake. An earthquake happened at that time. He did not include that in his narrative. And being the protege of Moses, anytime God did something or involved himself, or even Moses thought he did, he paid homage to God. He said, oh, God brought hail, and he brought a storm, and he brought locusts. I mean, I don't think if an earthquake would have occurred, Joshua would have left that out of his narrative. He told you what happened. First of all, when somebody tell you who they are, believe them. Ain't that what Maya Angelou said? Well, he telling you the story. You either gonna believe him or you're not. I think he created a mini earthquake through the stomping and the trampling of the people around the city, combined with the reverberation of the blaring of the priest horns every single day for 6 days. On the 7th day, constant, and the walls just gave in. And what about Rahab? Joshua gives specific instructions during his rally speech, during his rage speech. He's like, shout, go up, do this, do that, kill everyone. But not Rahab and her family, that hoe. Don't touch a hair on that hoe's head. Her or her family. He gives specific instruction. He says her name. Remember, the 2 spies gave Rahab specific instructions. They said to leave this red or scarlet braid outside the window of your apartment so we know who's SHIT, not to you know what up. Okay, that's the best I can do. I got 2 curse words left, and I don't want to use them up all this episode. So, Rahab is spared. Can you believe it? Rahab is spared. They kept their bargain with this woman. And look, Rahab is labeled a harlot. We don't know what she did to earn that title. Okay, over there in that part of the world, like, it don't take much, you know what I'm saying, for you to just get labeled and, you know what I'm saying, shunned from society. You know what I'm saying? She could have got mugged on the street. They would have been like, oh, she has been defiled. You know what I'm saying? And just, she'd have been ostracized. So maybe she was a hoe and deserved that. Maybe she was an ancient thought. Maybe she wasn't. We don't know. But what we do know is that Joshua commands the army to keep their bargain with Rahab. Now, we're just about finished, but before I go, I want to, one of the things I love to do most with these biblical stories is pull the story out of the Bible and into real life. A lot of people may have a lot of faith, and you know, they might have strong faith, and they don't need to see, you know, they don't need to see what's on the ground. They like, the Bible said it, it's true. And I'm with you on that. But it gives you more in-depth insight. It gives you more knowledge, more wisdom and understanding when you can eyeball the actual place, the actual city. And here's a slide of it. Here's a slide of, this is a slide of the actual place. So check this out. I got all these slides up of the city of Jericho, right? We're imagining what it could have looked like, what it may have looked like. And now I'm giving you a slide of the actual place on the ground. I think it's so, you know, the Bible gives you a puzzle with a few puzzle pieces. But once you see it for what it is on the ground, it fills in the rest of the missing puzzle pieces, and you get the whole picture. You get a better picture. You get better understanding of what actually happened. Now, I admit it's not much to look at. But as you can see, okay, if you see my pointer here, look closely at this, the ruin of Jericho. This was one of the first most heavily largest occupied cities. It is one of the ancient cities that was occupied for the longest. Look closely at my arrow. What is my arrow pointing at? It's pointing at a wall, still intact after all these thousands of years. Look, you can tell the city is on a hill. It's on a hill and it's walled. It's double walled. Look at that, dude. This city dates back to 1500 BC, and we're going to talk about that in about 30 seconds because it's the dating of this city that causes so much controversy today in modern times. As we speak, this is a raging debate among scholars. This is Kathleen Kenyon. So this site was not discovered by her. It was first excavated by I think a German archaeologist, I forget his name. But subsequent archaeology, well, that German archaeologist, I could be wrong, he dated the ancient city of Jericho back to like the 1100s or 1200s, or it may have been the 1400s. But subsequent archaeologists, they dated the city to the 1100s. Some dated it to the 1200s. BC meaning. You know, some dated it to 1100 BC. Some dated it to 1200 BC. The first guy dated it to 1400 BC. So this is Kathleen Kenyon. And between 1952 and 1958, she excavated at the ancient city of Jericho. Now, there is no doubt, there is no debate among scholars whether this is the city of Jericho. It is. Everybody agrees upon that. Scholars that don't agree with each other and hate each other's guts agree that this is Jericho. People of different faiths with all types of agendas, from all types of backgrounds, of all types of genders, agree that this ancient city is in fact Jericho. The thing that nobody agrees upon is what was the date of this city. So Kathleen Kenyon comes in, and she's in 1952, and what she does is she says, look, all these people are not doing their job as archaeologists. An archaeologist's job is to come in and do scientific work irregardless of bias, irregardless of religion. The facts should be the facts. And her problem was many of the archaeologists prior to her, they had an agenda. They were biased in favor of the Bible. They were looking to prove the Bible right. And so they let the biblical stories influence their scientific work. So she came to the scene, and her determination was to let the facts be the facts, to let the chips fall where they may, as you will. And so she excavated, and she dated the site to 1550 BCE. Now, as you can imagine, today, real time, as I'm making this video, certain scholars are infuriated at her dating this at 1550 BC because it blows their narrative out of the water. Let me explain. Most scholars who do have a hidden biblical agenda, meaning many Bible thumpers who happen to be archaeologists or scholars, they want this place to be dated at a certain time. They want it to be dated at 1400 BC because it's their theory that the Hebrews came out of Egypt at 1450 BC. So that lines right up with their narrative. The people who say that the Hebrews came out of Egypt at 1250 BC, they like to believe the narrative that this city Jericho dates back to 1200 BC. You see how that works? The Hebrews dwell in the desert for 40 years. So if they leave at 1250 or 1450, if they leave Egypt, at 1250 or 1450, dwell in the desert for 40 years, then that gives them approximately, give or take 10 years, they're right at the city of Jericho. It fits their agenda, it fits their narrative. So when Kathleen Kenyon comes in and says 1550 BC, she infuriates these people because she implodes their theory and their narrative. She crushes their hopes and dreams. But Kathleen Kenyon is just doing her job. And let me tell you, Kathleen Kenyon is right because the timeline is off. That's what me and Dr. David Rowe disagreed about. That's what everybody disagrees about. The Egyptian timeline, it is off. Soapman is just going to give you the facts. Moses and the Hebrew congregation left Egypt around 1540 BCE, no later than 1540 BCE. They dwelled in the desert for 40 years. They invaded the land of Canaan around 1500 BCE. Kathleen Kenyon dated this site to 1550. She was within 50 years of all the people who have excavated at this site. She has been the most accurate because she took religion out of the picture. She took bias out of the picture. She took personal attitudes and influences out of the picture. She took hopes and dreams out of the picture, and she did her job. And ladies and gentlemen, church folk especially, in order to understand the Bible, you must remove yourself. You must remove what you think. You must remove your bias, your personal beliefs, your hopes and dreams, what you want it to mean. There are no such thing as naked winged men floating about, no matter how much you want to believe it. Kudos, Catherine Kenyon. So this is a recreation of what we think the city may have looked like based upon what we've excavated. It would have been a city on a hill. It would have been double walled. If you want to pause this and read some of these little fun facts here, you know what I'm saying? It says buildings usually had 7-meter square courtyards. Some houses had stone foundation. 2-story houses. Remember, Rahab's apartment window was on the wall and it was high up. She had to let the 2 spies down with the rope. I personally believe it was probably more like this slide here that I have up for you. On a hill, double walled, nice and strong, no getting in there easily. The thing is, let's make one thing clear. Joshua has the numbers. Okay? Let's not pretend here. Moses left out of Egypt with 605,000 men that could go to war. Joshua has the numbers. The problem is they're operating a siege. A siege is the hardest battle strategy. These people are at home. You are trying to break into this beehive of God knows what's going to spill out. Joshua has the numbers, but you don't know exactly what's in there until you get in there. These people, this city, have probably booby-trapped every inch of this wall, just waiting, you know what I'm saying, using every moment that they haven't been attacked to fortify and booby-trap these walls, just waiting for a moment like this. This is a hard task. This is a place where you can lose your entire army trying to get into this, trying to crack this nut. So the Bible says the walls fall flat, but from what archaeologists excavated, it wasn't as though all of the walls that totally encompassed the city fell flat. There were just sections of the wall that crumbled on both double walls. Both double walls crumbled in certain sections when Joshua and all the people shouted and blew the horns on the 7th day. Now here's the funny thing, and I found the best slide that I could to show this. If you look closely, look at my pointer here in the middle of the screen. Now look at it as I go down to this pile of debris down here at the bottom. What this is the top of the wall, and this is actually what happens. Listen to me carefully, because this is quite eerie. The walls set, the outer wall set on a foundation, and we can prove this. We know this from the excavated site of Jericho, of ancient Jericho, of the ancient city of Jericho. We've excavated the site. We see how the walls crumbled. We see how at the bottom of the foundation is a bunch of red bricks that are different from the gray stone bricks that form the foundation. So we know that these stones down here at the bottom by the base are from the upper wall, because the base of the outer wall was formed by like grayish stones. But we see all these red bricks at the base that fell from the upper wall that set on top of the stone foundation. I know I'm sounding goofy saying all that, but you can look at the picture and tell what I'm ineloquently trying to say. The brick wall that set on the stone foundation fell. But what ended up happening is those bricks that fell formed a ramp. It formed a natural ramp that the Hebrews used as like a natural ladder to climb the base of the wall. The wall is made up of two parts, a stone base formed with grayish stones, and the upper half of the wall is made by like these reddish bricks. At the actual site, you see these piles of reddish bricks going all the way up the height of the stone part of the wall, forming natural ramps, easy access for the Hebrews to get in. That is eerie. It's almost as if the environment, as if the land, as if the wall itself is working in favor of these people. The Jordan River just dried up, giving them easy access to the city. And when the walls crumble, the top part of the wall form a ramp over the bottom part of the wall, giving the Hebrews easy access into the city. Just super eerie. And what about Rahab? Is there any evidence? I mean, because we see plenty of evidence that this is the actual city of Jericho spoken in the Bible. But what about this little detail about the harlot Rahab, who supposedly was spared? Joshua chapter 6, verses 22 through 24 reads, "But Joshua had said unto the two men that spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman, and all that she hath, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in, and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel. And they burnt the city with fire, and all that was therein. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord." Joshua chapter 6, verses 25 through 27 read, "And Joshua saved Rahab, the harlot, alive, and her father's household, and all that she had. And she dwells in Israel even unto this day." Let me read that again. How's that for a cursed hoe? It says, "And Joshua saved Rahab, the harlot, alive." Let me add, she was the only survivor of the city of Jericho. The Israelite horde slaughtered those people. Everyone in the city was executed, save one woman. Who was she? Why was she so special? Well, let's see. The Bible says, "And Joshua saved Rahab, the harlot, alive." Oh, that's not all. And her father. Oh, and her father's household. Oh, what? There's more? "And all that she had." And I know it says dweller. I wrote it wrong, but I'm reading it right. "And she dwells in Israel even unto this day." Now, this woman isn't immortal, but what they are saying is her descendants dwell with Israel to this day. So they did not just save her. They incorporated her into the congregation. She assimilated, amalgamated, absorbed into the congregation. She's got a spot. She's got a seat at the table. This foreigner. Why? Why did the Israelite congregation bestow such high honor upon a hoe? Because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man before the Lord that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country. Here is a slide of the excavated site of the ancient city of Jericho, and as you can see, this wall is still intact. This could possibly be Rahab's apartment or a piece of Rahab's apartment. If you see my pointer here, you can see that even the foundation of this section of the wall is still intact. So even though we don't still have, you know, a window in the wall that says Rahab was here or Rahab's place, even though we don't still have the scarlet thread hanging out of her apartment window, because that's what a lot of y'all be looking for. Y'all be looking for like smoking guns. Y'all be thinking like we gonna like find like big neon signs after thousands of years saying here it was and this is it. It just don't work like that. You have to piece a lot of this information together. You have to use a lot of circumstantial evidence with the hard physical evidence you got. The earth is only gonna cough up so much after 3,000 and 5,000 years. You did? So check this out. We've come to the part of the episode where I thank you for joining me for this time that you spent with me. Yo, I hope you learned something. I hope you come back and check your boy out. If you got any comments, insults, compliments, leave them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, hit the like and subscribe button. I won't take up no more of your time. I'll see you next time. Same soap time and channel, baby. We out.